Do you believe that paradise exists? For hiking enthusiasts, yes. There is such a magical place located just 75 kilometers from the Polish border. It's Slovak Paradise. It is indeed a paradise for nature lovers and unforgettable views. This beautiful place is extremely diverse in landscape, full of gorgeous rocks, forests, and waterfalls. While being here, it is also necessary to see the charming town of Levoča, located just 15 kilometers from Slovak Paradise. You should also travel a few kilometers further. There is the Spiš Castle, one of the largest medieval castles in Europe. Both of these places are listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Is it worth seeing them? Watch the video until the end. I hope it encourages you to visit this beautiful region of Slovakia. We are departing from Krakow. The destination is Autocamping Podlesok in the village of Hrabušice in Slovakia. We reach the place after about 3.5 hours of driving. We park in a paid parking lot and set off on the trail. As you can see, there will be a place to eat something after we return. We will make a loop. Today's route is about 9 kilometers and no more than 4 hours of walking. We buy a ticket to Slovak Paradise insurance for 3 days of hiking and start the route. I will talk later about the purpose of purchasing insurance and a few practical tips. Links to the places you will see in the video, the routes we walked, and the places where we parked the car can be found in the description under the video. So let's hit the road. Slovak Paradise covers an area of almost 200 square kilometers. For hiking tourists, more than 300 kilometers of trails are prepared. Cyclists can use about 150 kilometers of routes within the Massif and its surroundings. Touristically, this place was discovered at the beginning of the 20th century. And for the first time, the name Slovak Paradise appeared in 1921. In July 1976, there was a huge fire. About 30 hectares of forest burned. Fortunately, nature managed to recover. And 12 years later, Slovak Paradise National Park was established here. The most attractive hiking trails run along stream beds, where the most difficult sections are overcome with the help of artificial aids in the form of metal or wooden footbridges, bridges, and ladders up to several meters high. The first stage of today's hike is a 4-kilometer climb on the green trail from Autocamping Podlesok to a place called Suha Bela, and from there we descend down to the left on the yellow trail for about 1.5 kilometers, and then only 4 more kilometers on the red trail. A bit tired but enchanted by this beautiful place, we return to the place from which we started. Later, we will go to the town of Levoča. But about Levoča and Spiš Castle, which we will visit the next day, I will tell you in the last part of the video. We start the second day from a different place. Today we have 15 kilometers and 5 hours of hiking ahead of us. Again, we will make a loop. The first stage, about 1/3 of the route, we walk on the yellow trail to a place called Gladska Cesta, and from there we turn left and return on the red trail to the starting point. On the way, I will tell you a few important things you should know before setting off on the local trails. Wear good hiking boots, preferably high and waterproof. The hiking trails are demanding. It's easy to get injured. When overcoming natural obstacles in the valleys and crossing streams, it's easy to slip. As I mentioned, entry to the Slovak Paradise area is paid. When purchasing an entrance ticket, you can also buy insurance. It costs a symbolic amount of about €1 per day. And you should know that possible rescue operations without insurance are very expensive, and you would be charged with these costs. So it's worth having insurance just in case. Definitely do not take dogs and children under 7 years old on the trails. Dogs certainly won't make it on their own, and children might not manage. People with a fear of heights may have problems with most of the trails. When planning routes, remember that some trails are one way. Also, take into account that during the season on weekends, there are a lot of people on the trails. And who are the most? Guess. The signs in the roadside tavern in Slovak, Polish, and Hungarian are very telling. In Slovak Paradise, the trails mostly have a specific layout. First, a relatively steep climb, usually along a stream bed, and then gentle descents along wide forest paths. I am enchanted by this place. I have thousands of kilometers of hiking trails behind me in many countries around the world. And I must admit that Slovak Paradise ranks at the very top of the locations where I have hiked. And I already know that I will come back here again. We are back at Autocamping Podlesok. This time we will go along the valley of the Honrad River on the Blue Trail to the place where it turns onto the Green Trail leading to the Klasztorisko clearing, where there are the ruins of a medieval Carthusian monastery and a shelter. The climb on the Green Trail will be the most demanding due to the steep ascent, but also the most beautiful. At the highest point of our climb, there is the Klasztorisko clearing where you will see the medieval ruins of the Carthusian monastery. In a nutshell, I will tell you the story of its origin. Well, in 1241, during the Mongol invasion of Europe, a large group of Spiš residents took refuge in this clearing. The invaders either did not find this refuge or did not decide to venture into the horse-unfriendly mountain gorges. In any case, the refugees gathered here survived the invasion. In 1299, many years after the Mongols had withdrawn, a decision was made to build a monastery here in commemoration of this salvation. Nearby is the only tourist shelter in Slovak Paradise. This shelter is probably only open during the tourist season. However, outside the season, you can use a vending machine where you can buy beer or kofola. When purchasing beer, you need to scan an ID confirming that you're over 18 years old. And kofola is a Czechoslovak equivalent of Coca-Cola. Older viewers remember that in Poland there used to be a drink called polo kokta, which did not survive to this day. Kofola in Slovakia, however, did and is still very popular. It's time to go back. And as I mentioned earlier, I will come back here again. The goal will be the Via Ferrata Kisel, a trail that requires proper equipment such as a helmet, climbing harness, and lanyard. These items can be rented on site. anyone who has ever been to any rope park will manage. What you saw in this video is just a small fragment of what is here. There are hundreds of kilometers of trails, so there is plenty to do even for 2 weeks. While staying here, it's also worth visiting the town of Levoča and the nearby Spiš Castle, which I will now tell you a bit about. A few kilometers from Slovak Paradise lies the small, sleepy town of Levoča. Anyone who has been to Slovakia or the Czech Republic in such towns knows that they have their own unique, incomparable atmosphere. Here, no one is in a hurry. Time seems to flow more slowly. At the end of the 12th century, the Hungarian King Géza II settled German settlers in this region. The first written mention of this settlement comes from 1249. Since then, Levoča has been steadily developing. This development is supported by the town's location on the Via Magna trade route from Hungary to Krakow. Despite the Hussite invasions in the 15th century and 2 catastrophic fires a century later, Levoča was considered one of the largest towns in the region. It wasn't until the Ottoman Empire's invasion of Europe at the end of the 17th century, followed by the Rákóczi uprising in 1703, that Levoča's importance began to decline. In 1711, a plague ravaged the town, killing a significant portion of the population. The final blow was the construction of the Košice-Bohumín Railway in 1871, which bypassed Levoča, significantly reducing the town's importance and pace of development. Paradoxically, Levoča benefited from this as the untouched urban complex of the old town was preserved. Walking around the town center, you will see the medieval church of St. James, which houses the tallest Gothic altar in the world, measuring almost 90 meters in height, from the early 16th century. Next to it is the Gothic town hall building from the late 15th century, which was rebuilt in Renaissance style after a fire in 1550. Another interesting building is the Veľký župný dom, Great County House, the seat of the former administrative authorities, built in the early 15th century. Within the Renaissance market square, the Thurzo House stands out, belonging to the significant Hungarian noble family during the medieval and Renaissance periods. Walking towards the city walls, you will see the Baroque church and monastery of the Minorites from the 18th century. To the left of it is the Košice Gate, built in the early 14th century, along with the well-preserved medieval city walls. Currently, the town has about 15,000 residents. Since 2009, the monuments of Levoča have been listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and the current city authorities are striving to make Levoča an important tourist center. From Levoča, it is worth taking a trip to the Spiš Castle, located about 20 kilometers away. It is one of the largest castle complexes in Europe, covering an area of about 25 hectares. Since 1993, it has been listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The earliest written mention of the castle dates back to 1120. Initially, it served as a border fortress on the northern border of the then Hungarian state. It was so powerful that it withstood the Mongol invasion in the 13th century. From this period comes a romantic legend about the tragic love of a Tatar princess, the daughter of Shaiban Khan, the leader of the Mongol army besieging the fortress and one of the castle defenders. What was the outcome of this love and other legends associated with this place you will learn by coming here, which I highly encourage. The castle's period of greatness began in 1465, when the Hungarian magnate Stefan Zápolya became the owner of the castle. The new owner expanded and transformed this place into a representative noble residence. His son John, the future king of Hungary, was born here. In 1780, a fire broke out and the castle began to fall into ruin. Currently, the castle is being successively rebuilt and made available to visiting tourists. You can visit Levoča and Spiš Castle after finishing one of the trails in Slovak Paradise. What I have shown you and told you about is just a small part of what awaits you here, and I assure you that history enthusiasts and hiking lovers will not be disappointed.